Need to have your karma.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Waking Up to Narcissism. I am your host, Tony Overbay. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, a certified mindful habit coach, and today I have a very, very special interview for you. You're going to meet my friend Ashlynn Allen. Her journey started as a fitness influencer. It moved into a betrayal trauma survivor to now an empowerment coach. And I think it's a testament to the power of facing life's storms with courage and authenticity. I first met Ashlyn back in November of 2020 when she was co-hosting the Betrayed, the Addicted, and the Expert podcast. At that time, she was publicly sharing her story of working through betrayal trauma while trying to save her marriage. But life had other plans. What started out as a journey of marriage recovery eventually led to divorce, and then to a very unexpected new chapter that challenged everything that Ashlyn thought that she knew about love, about healing, about herself, and about personal growth. Today, Ashlyn helps others navigate their own storms through her coaching practice and her retreats. And she's become known for her raw honesty about the messy parts of healing and her ability to find joy and purpose even in life's most challenging moments. From her own journey through betrayal trauma, something that she never in a million years thought would be part of her life, to her current work empowering others to reconnect with themselves, I think Ashlyn's story reminds us that our greatest struggles often lead to our most profound transformations. Everything becomes an opportunity for self-confrontation and growth. In today's conversation, we dive deep into her experience of sharing personal pain in the public eye, the unexpected gifts that can come from some of the hardest moments, and why sometimes the very bravest thing that we can do is to let go of our need for certainty and control. And we also explore her journey of finding love again in a very unexpected place, and how she learned to trust her intuition even when it led her down very unconventional paths. Whether you are going through your own storm right now, or whether you are just simply seeking inspiration to help you on your journey of personal growth, I think that this conversation with Ashlyn is going to give you a lot of insight about everything from resilience, authenticity, and the courage to truly face whatever life throws your way. So before we get to the interview, I would love it if you would visit tonyoverbay.com, sign up for my newsletter, or follow me on Instagram at virtual.couch or on TikTok at virtualcouch. And if you have questions or thoughts or anything around today's episode, please don't hesitate to share them through the website, or you can reach out to me at contact@tonyoverbay.com. Okay, everybody, welcome Ashlyn Allen. I just feel like it's been a long time coming. So thanks for jumping on the podcast.
Of course. Thanks for asking me.
Yeah, I thought I'm actually not a big agenda guy, more of a flow guy, but
Same.
There's a part of me that would love to do old home week and talk about when we first met. Ashlyn, do you remember?
Podcasting.
Yeah, it was. And I went back and looked because it seems like it was a long time ago. The day was November the 2nd, 2020. That's actually when the podcast was released. And it was on the Betrayed, the Addicted, and the Expert. The title of the episode was, Is Narcissism Nature or Nurture? With Brandon. Okay, here's my memory, and it could be completely false. And this is why I'm so excited to talk to you, because it's that many years ago. It was a Facebook Live, I think is maybe the way that you guys used to do that. Is that right?
Zoom through Facebook Live, yeah.
Yes, okay. And so then we're there, and what's really funny is, here's my immaturity. I remember I had to block out 2 hours, and I was a busy therapist, and so I was like used to doing 1 hour, and I had to block out 2. But then I really enjoyed, it was like we were hanging out a little bit before we hit record, and I could have made this up, but I think I was talking with Brandon about some faith things, because I really enjoy working with people navigating the faith deconstruction, the faith journey. And if I remember it right, maybe you had mentioned something briefly, and then we ended up doing the interview on narcissism. And then I think I had reached out to you a time or two and just said, hey, if there's ever anything I can do to help. And there was this part of me that just wanted to just help you with that so bad. Yeah, right? Isn't that funny?
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and now here we are.
And
Yeah.
it was messy and hard to go through.
I felt, and what I can't wait to talk to you today is, I love how you talk so much about trusting your gut and your intuition. And there's a part of me that I think felt that vibe. And so maybe it's just a me thing, but I've always felt a little bit of some connection there to you. And so then I think that there was I didn't know where that boundary was for me to say, let me help you, Ashlyn, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Sorry, I didn't.
It is quite all right. So that I couldn't wait to just share that. And not that I needed you to tell me, oh my gosh, I felt the same thing and I should have. But when you just said things were messy, maybe that's a nice intro to my audience of, tell me more. Take us on your journey. How do we get here today, Ashlyn?
Oh, it's so windy. In fact, someone yesterday was like, what is the one thing that's helped you? And I couldn't come up with one thing.
Yeah.
And what's the most pivotal moment? There isn't one. There's so many.
I
And
appreciate
so when I say messy, it's beautiful messy. There's days where I don't like feeling messy
that.
and being the messy friend.
Yeah.
And then there's days where I think I really believe all of us struggle, and I'm just willing to be a little more upfront about it
That,
sometimes.
that
And
Ashlyn, if I can just tell you, I think that's what I'm drawn toward in your story, and then following you on social media. And of course, I'll include everything I can. And is because I think at that same time, really starting to recognize that as a therapist, I love when somebody's vulnerable in my office, and I think you can really do a lot of work with
yes.
someone. But then I realized how difficult it is to be vulnerable out in the wild.
Mm.
And man, I felt for you, and maybe we can get into that. But here you had been in the public eye for a number of years. What was that like going through that?
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, we can back way up. I was doing fitness influencing on social media. And when I found out about my former husband's, his second betrayal
Mm,
it was, I think, 16 years into the marriage at that point, it was devastating, but also the embarrassment of what I felt being the partner who was cheated on again, and I
okay.
hadn't just left.
Yeah.
I didn't want anyone to know. And so we didn't seek help right away. And when we went to therapy, and we've gone kind of spotty, 6 years into the marriage, had an emotional affair
Okay.
and was caught on that one. And so was like, "Okay, let's get this figured out." We didn't. It was just, "Don't do it."
Don't do it again.
And
Yeah.
so he didn't do it and tried really hard for a long time. And, we got along and had plenty of great moments in our relationship and a lot of hard ones. Ultimately, 16, I think, well, maybe, I don't even know my own timeline, but maybe 14 to 16 years into the marriage, it happened again. And this time I had help because I had a therapist who was specializing in betrayal trauma. He had actually reached out to them and said, "I want us to get help."
Mm,
So that was like this giant difference in the
yeah.
first time where it was just like, I got to stop doing this thing that's
Yeah.
hurting us. And the second time around was just a lot more intentional and focused on finding a therapist who could dive into that actual feelings that we were feeling and not just more talk therapy. We
Yeah.
did more somatic work. We did um, trauma reprocessing like EMDR,
Mm.
and it really pushed us. I remember starting into a women's therapeutic group, and I hated it.
What'd you
I
hate about it?
absolutely hated it.
Yeah.
I was never vulnerable until then. I would be very vague on social media, like, life is hard, but it's good. And that was my vulnerability. So to go to a group of women I didn't know and have to say my story out loud, w- I mean, when women come to me now, yesterday I had a girl and she's like, I have so many anxious feelings right now because she hadn't been able to say it out loud. And it's different when you're doing that instead of just thinking it in your head or
Absolutely.
journaling,
Right.
complaining to a friend here and there about little things. When you put it all into a story, it's kind of a lot to take on when you have never been vulnerable like that.
Yeah. And what's that
But
like for you as a coach, hearing that, your experience of then somebody opening up to you like that?
I love when people can come to me and they're I'm probably just like you, like, where
Yeah.
they're like, "This is so scary
Yeah.
and so uncomfortable. I'm so afraid to be here, and here I go."
And
And
what
they
I love
just
about
do
that,
it.
I love that so much, because I think one of the things that people don't even understand about going to a coach or going to a therapist is when you open up to a friend, there's reactions, or there's, well, why didn't you do this? And so then anything we're
I would do
saying,
this.
right, even from a good place, a well-meaning place, is telling us we're wrong, and I did it
Mm.
wrong, and I should have done it a different way, and what's wrong with me? And
Yes.
we go right into that shame spiral. So I love the part about therapy and coaching where when somebody says, "What was that like? And then what did you do? And tell me more." And how did that feel? It quickly tells the brain, safe. This is
Mm.
this is okay. And I love what you're saying, because we keep it in our brain, it's going to default to the negative, and it's
No.
me. Yeah, I'm a horrible person. I should, right.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's where most of us come into betrayal, and we have, "I'm not
Mm,
enough."
yeah.
because we're just in our heads, like they're choosing this and we're in comparison and we're detectives and we go find out
Mhm.
the things that that really hurt us.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, having someone who was not emotionally involved in my life, who could help me zoom out and see the
Yeah.
world a little different. Those women who were in the group with me were shocked when I started sharing online because I was so quiet in the beginning.
Oh, I bet. Okay.
But it was that, like, once I found it in me and released it and found that freedom, I wanted everyone to have it. So it was like, wait, everyone, we're doing it wrong. Like,
Yeah.
therapy is this great thing that can unlock the parts of us that feel so stuck and so
Yeah.
alone. And yeah, so we made a video and the video went viral and it changed our lives forever. And it was honestly just a testimonial for the therapist that we went to
Okay.
say we had no idea that there was help and we just were trying to do this on our own.
And Ashlyn, did you get
So
any negative feedback at first?
for sure,
Yeah.
because my story also includes the use of porn in a very secretive way. And so but Fight the New Drug shared it and all the negativity was really just there. And so most people showed up on our doorstep, emails from around the world, people asking for help. Like, okay, so how do we get to where you guys are?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, I think, Tony, that was so long ago that where I am now, I think, oh, like, it's no wonder I was so afraid to help people. I didn't help people for a year and a half after that,
Wow.
because I was like, I can't help you. Go to a therapist.
Yeah. It's interesting
And yeah,
too. I mean, I really believe that it's not that you can't, but it's difficult to help somebody to a place that you've never been. And so I
yeah,
think it's so important to have somebody that has experience like yours. I can provide a lot of structure and empathy and tools, but I don't think there's a replacement for somebody that understands what you've been through.
yeah.
And when you're saying too that there was that negative feedback, I think that's one of those things that how deep is our desire to get validation and be people
Mm,
pleasers. And so I do think that working with people that are trying to be more open and vulnerable, there's an acceptance that you will not be everybody's
yes.
friend. Was that hard? Was that hard?
For sure. I had many therapy sessions where once I became like, okay, I'm going to help people, I'm going to do this, it was, oh, I don't recommend it for everyone, honestly.
Okay.
When girls come to me and they're like, I want to do what you're doing, I'm like, are you sure you understand what I'm doing?
Right?
Because I get hard emails every single day that are like, this just happened, help. And those are hard to read and give empathy to on like a regular basis. And then you get people who are like, because of you, I got divorced. It's your fault, So I'm
Yeah.
getting people who are like, please help me. And then others who are like, how dare you share your story and give me hope and then
Yeah.
fail,
Oh,
in their eyes. And so,
part that you're saying, because I think people that don't know your story, because it was interesting, because after I was on that podcast and I had become a bit of a
mm,
fan and I knew Brandon fairly well at that point, had him on my podcast. And then, so then I'm referring a lot of people to it. And so I remember that when the word got out that, that you guys were getting a divorce, and it was interesting to see that wasn't news for so many people to react to.
it's
You know,
still, and
is
it's
it?
it's been 4 years. 4 years later, I still get messages randomly that say, because of you, I
Mm,
got divorced.
okay.
And I know that's not true,
Yeah.
but it hurts my heart that people still can go there
Yeah.
and that they're not, able. I don't know. There is so much good still happening through those podcasts. My podcasts are still there.
Yeah.
And yes, they do end in us getting a divorce. And
Totally.
so yeah, for a lot of people, it took away some hope.
Yeah.
But there's just a lot of things I think we don't know until we know,
For
and
sure.
I know a little bit more now,
Yeah.
and the more I learn, the more I don't know. And
Um,
so
Amen to that. And that's where it breaks my heart where people same, and I can't imagine the number of those you get specifically focusing on this area of mental
mhm,
health. And because I get a variety of things of you said this, so then this happened in my life,
mm,
and where, and I don't want to it to ever sound negative, but that is technically it's a them issue, and I provided a data that then they interacted with, and then they took action. But sometimes I find out all these things that apparently I said. And that one's kind of funny because bless somebody's heart if they're unable to really take ownership of their own choice or their own life. And
yeah,
because if it doesn't go perfectly, then they need someone to then say, oh, well, if Ashlyn wouldn't have done this or Tony wouldn't have said this. And I think that can be hard at times.
Yeah. Well, it's easier to point a finger
Yeah,
at
exactly.
someone else. And I am 100% owning that I have done that so
Same.
many times in my life. And especially during that season of trying to heal after betrayal, I have a therapist who is wonderful, who was like, you really need to work on your shame resilience.
Mm.
And I just was like, I'm confident, I have success, I don't have shame. And I just kept like, I know better than you.
Yeah.
And just couldn't, it was just like, he needs to fix all of his stuff. And when he can fix his stuff, I'm going to be okay. But as he stepped into fixing his stuff, I was not okay.
Okay.
That's not how it works.
Yeah.
The
Tell me about that.
things that I thought would bring me safety and trust, I'm still trying to help people unlearn, because they do not build safety and trust for most of us. It's like checking his phone. And I'll be really honest, my youngest daughter, she's a teenager. She's seeing pop therapy on social media. So she's like, Mom, why aren't you doing these things with your partner? And she's naming all the things that I think I did those things and they did not get me where I wanted to be in my relationship. So tracking your partner, your location, checking their phone on a regular basis. I can't even remember some of them, but the daily check-in of like, this is where I'm at with my desires for other women or pornography or to masturbate. Like they just weren't meant for me. I'm not the mom.
Mhm.
I'm not the therapist. I'm not the teacher.
Yeah.
And yet I felt like, and I see it in women all the time, you get put in this role, like almost like you take it on yourself. I can do this. I'll fix us.
Yeah. Well, and the guys I work with often, and that's where I always say, I don't want the spouse to be the accountability partner, because it destroys polarity in a relationship. But also, most of the guys I'm working with are somewhere on that emotionally immature spectrum. I mean, aren't we all? Trying to work toward emotional maturity, but that is a way that then, okay, well, I told her, so then now that's on her if she doesn't like it, because what was I supposed to do? Versus like deal with your own crap and not diffuse it into the relationship.
It's so hard to, because I see both sides where they're
Right.
like, I've held this secret in for so long and I finally told you, you should be proud of me.
Right.
I'm being honest. And so there's this part of you like, be proud of you. What?
Yeah, I'm
Like
devastated
you're
right now, right?
blowing my mind.
Yeah.
But also like, I see what you're saying. I can zoom out far enough now and be like, yeah, I imagine that was incredibly hard. And that is some sort of effort in wanting to preserve a relationship and rebuild. But you threw a giant pile of crap on me and then wanted me to carry it.
Yeah, and to thank you for it. Right?
Yes.
So what was that like? Your podcast ran The Betrayed, Addicted, Expert. What, 6 years? Is that how long?
4
4 years.
4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the middle of it, did you guys feel like, man, we really think we have this figured out? I mean, I'm saying in a positive way.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Yeah.
And I would say we were doing great.
Okay.
I think the longer the road of recovery after affairs, after addictions, betrayal, I feel like the more we step into who are we? And we were in that realm.
Okay.
When things started to go like we did not go fit together anymore, because we were trying to, one, leave a religion that we had both grown up our entire lives, and then trying to figure out who we are now. Like, who's our identity without all of our labels? I don't want to be the once betrayed forever. I don't want to be a wife or a mom or like, I'm more than just these labels.
Yeah.
And that's where we had the pandemic, so we're sitting in our house trying to figure out who we are, and it was just a lot. And ultimately we ended our marriage, and it was a surprise to me and the world. And devastating, and the best gift he ever gave me. The best.
How so? Talk about that. Yeah.
I am loyal to a fault in many ways. I see the good much more than I see in the bad in people. And so I can get in that, like, yes, I may say, hey, this is hurting me or this is annoying. But ultimately I'm like, I love you and we're going to figure this out. Right. And for him to say, I'm not fully in this.
Mm.
I'm gonna step out was so hard to hear because I wouldn't do that.
Had
I was
you thought that?
Yes, I had
Yeah.
both feet in
Yeah.
and was like, no, I want to make this happen. I want to make it work. We're rebuilding. And the reality is we had rebuilt, but yes, together, but very separate lives.
Mm.
I didn't even know some of his friends. I would
Okay.
do a lot of the things alone because he didn't like them. And so, after 21 years, you realize we fell in love with each other, but we've also drastically changed
Yeah.
and we don't totally fit. And so, yeah, I would say the first 4 months so January through April was really hard for me to
Mm.
accept that I have to tell the world that he left me. I didn't leave him after all he did. He's
Oh,
choosing to leave.
yeah.
Like the embarrassment came again.
Oh,
And so I remember telling my therapist, like, I already worked through all these things after the
ye
betrayal, not feeling enough, being so afraid of the future and so embarrassed of the past and just everything again because it was this new arena.
yeah. So looking
And
back on that too, are you saying, or tell me about that, did you realize that the two of you then, the two new versions of yourselves, or were they not compatible?
yeah. And I do realize that because that just going to things alone, I would be
Uh-huh.
so devastated. Like, I don't even have a partner who wants to do anything with me.
Mm.
And I do. I mean, you read my journal and it's
Yeah.
obvious that I was like, where is he? Who
Mm.
is he?
Yeah.
He's not the same. And I'm sure if he were journaling, he would probably say the same for
Yeah.
me.
And did you feel like you were
And
trying to know this new version of him?
no, I was
Okay.
afraid of the new version.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It was very different than anything we had lived. And the hard part of that is he was trying to be himself,
Mhm. Okay.
and himself scared me
Yeah.
because it didn't fit in the rules that we thought all the rules I thought we had made in our relationship.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of fear and in the end we got to a place of like I could be safe for him to share things. That's why the divorce came. It's like
Okay.
I feel safe enough to tell you I'm totally gone. I'm
Yeah.
checked out. And he moved out immediately. And so and we've just yeah, things were good the first couple years of getting along and co-parenting and working our way out of being married. And they've gotten a little harder the last couple. And so
You know,
it's just
that
different.
so how long after you said those first 4 months, it was pretty difficult to think, "Okay, this is happening. He is leaving me." And so what was your growth process like from there? When did it start to really feel like this gift that he gave you?
I'm going to be really honest. And
Yeah.
I don't know if this happens in a lot of people's relationships when they end, but I needed to make sense of what was happening. And I
Actually, this is
couldn't.
what everyone tries to do, so I'm grateful that you're saying
Ugh,
this. I mean, we have such a need for certainty and
yes.
yeah,
Like
so tell me about that.
complete this story in my
Yeah.
brain. It has no ending and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the problem for me was I was going to therapists, two different therapists, like twice a week,
Mhm.
like once, both of them just like intense because it was like they've rallied around me like, oh my gosh, Ashlyn and Kobe are getting divorced. We need to help them,
Yeah.
which I will forever be grateful for. And because they love me like they do, they just let me try to make sense for way too long.
I like that you're saying way too long because I will often say, because at this point I'm an old man, I pick and choose my clients, I have a nice wait list, and so it's usually people that are familiar with my podcast material. So then they'll say, "I know I can't have certainty, but I'm so desperate for it." And then I'll say, "In the safety of my dojo, we'll try to make some sense of it with an acceptance that we may not know."
Yes.
Yeah. So, but I like what you're saying because at some point it's helpful, maybe till it's not.
Yes, and I think they eventually got me there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was, we tell our story over and over until we feel heard,
Yeah.
which is annoying for our friends and our family. And
Great for a therapist though, because it is. I do
yes,
enjoy that part. Yeah.
so everyone around me was trying to make sense of it too. Like we're coming up with all these scenarios of why he would
Yeah.
choose this after I had not done all these horrible things, whatever comparison, right? And honestly, I remember it like it transported me to another world. I just was in my own home. And I was like, what if I just don't care anymore?
Yeah. Oh,
What if I just actually let this go and I
yep.
get to move on with my life? And he gets to move on with his life. And yes, I can feel sad. I think allowing the duality,
Yes.
I
Oh,
wasn't doing that. I was like, no, I either have to figure it out and then I can move on instead of like, no, I can move on and just never know what's over here.
mm,
And it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. And
yes.
it feels like it matters so much because I think it would have helped me like, okay, now I'm better because it's him.
Yeah. Yeah. I think,
And to accept not knowing, but also going through my head and like, I'm not good enough. I'm terrified. I grew old with this man and now I have to date someone in my 40s. This is awful. Like it just felt so scary and big. And letting that go was like, it's everything that therapists always told me it would feel like to surrender,
yeah.
but I don't think I'd ever experienced it until then.
So then how would you, I mean, back to the we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, that's one of the most beautiful, but yet I can imagine frustrating places to be in the therapist chair
Oh,
is trying
yeah.
to hear that person until they feel heard, because until that point, they're
Yes.
going to yeah, but everything. But at that point, then maybe they're more open and you want to
Mm,
help them get there so quick because that's a you thing,
yeah.
because you see them hurt and you know that that's most likely the outcome because they're there in therapy and working with you on the things that,
Yes.
and I love that we'll seek certainty for a while. And then at some point, okay, that isn't necessarily working either. And I love what you're saying. And I love this concept of acceptance. Doesn't mean apathy, doesn't mean I'm giving in. I might accept the fact I may not know, because
Yeah.
then this is this concept I love of this whole object relations. All of a sudden it isn't all or nothing. It isn't I know or I don't, or it was good or bad. Or so now I can accept that sometimes I will still wonder. Sometimes I will still tell
Yep.
myself this story. Sometimes I'll be in a present moment. Sometimes I'll be frustrated. And I love what you're saying, that duality, or quadrality or octality,
Yeah.
whatever. That I can hold a whole bunch of different
Oh,
feelings and
yeah.
emotions, and they can shift within a minute if I
Mhm.
want, and that's okay. Have you felt that?
Oh, yeah. And
Okay.
in fact, what you're saying sometimes I think is so key, and I hope people hear that because the surrender that I felt still came with sometimes
Yeah.
after, like, sometimes wondering, like, "Maybe this," and just kinda like, "Oh, yeah, and?"
Oh, and I feel that. I just felt that that is it, because I love this. We just think that we need to be more rigid or structured, but life becomes this just state of flow. So
Mm.
where I'm always this way except for when I'm not, or I never need certainty except for these times I do, and I'm feeling amazing except for when I'm not, and now I do again. And I almost feel like when somebody can get to that place of acceptance, that's a pretty fun ride, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I will say it took me a long time, and I still have to work on it sometimes where I'm like, "Oh, here I am again, expecting life to get easier and to
Yeah.
not have these moments. Oh, here I am again. Okay."
And I love it. I love you saying that, because I still would love that. I mean, it's funny. Like this morning, I came in thinking everything. This is the greatest. I'm living the best life ever. And then I hurt my back recently. I've never done this in my life. And then I made a little movement, and there that was. I'm like, oh my
Oh,
gosh, I will never do these certain things again. I was like, wow, I just went from everything's figured out to like I'll never walk again. And
mhm, and, this world after betrayal, oh, that is, like,
oh
1,000%. It's like, we're just walking along, and then we see something, and we jump off a cliff. Like, it is so easy to just boom, 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 and spiral ourselves and hurt ourselves. The detective in us, I don't know a woman who hasn't done it
yeah,
after betrayal,
for sure.
whether they admit to it or not. It's like, I have this feeling, and I don't know if it's my intuition or if it's just desire to know.
Yeah,
So I'm going to go and search their phone. I'm gonna go look up people and hurt myself and stalk them on social media.
yeah.
I used to do that, and then when I actually met the affair partner in real life, we got stuck in an elevator of all places together.
It's a bad TV
It
movie,
it
right?
was so weird, and I
Like, do you
remember
mind telling that story? What, I've never heard
she
this.
yeah, she didn't even know who I was at that point.
Wow.
Like, without him, she'd seen us together, but she didn't know who I was. I knew who she was. And so I just stood in the corner like a deer in the headlights. I didn't punch her. I didn't do all the things that I thought I was gonna do
Yeah.
and yell at her, and I just stood there.
Oh,
And she reached out later and said, "I'm really sorry, and I think we could be good friends." And I just said, no, thank you.
Yeah.
And that I'm sorry. They both were married and chose those things. And so it hurt both the marriages, not just ours.
Yeah. Is it a very tall building or was it a very quick ride in the elevator?
It was actually on a cruise ship
Was
with
it?
like 10,000 people. So it was just like serendipitous. It needed to happen.
Yeah.
I needed to see that I actually didn't need to hurt this person and yell
Okay.
at them and tear them down. I just needed to take my energy and like I blocked her on everything, not to be like, how dare you, but to
Yeah.
be a protection from me.
Yeah. I love
I
it.
don't need to see that energy in my feed or have the, go look for it.
Yeah. It's interesting. I know I love where we're going today. Not even anywhere that I was thinking we might, but I work with a lot of people that go through divorce, betrayal, breakups. And then when somebody says, but I hope we can be friends. And the person that feels betrayed says, okay, I know I'm being mean, but I don't want to be. But no, it's how you feel. And I think often about that would be much easier for the person that did the betrayer, because that would alleviate their discomfort.
Yeah.
But then most likely, and I think I've identified people a lot of times in your position as pathologically kind. So kindness is an amazing thing, but when it's pathological, it can be to one's detriment. So then that person's going to take on the betrayer's discomfort yet again. And I think I love what you're saying. It's okay to say, I don't know if I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I still would today. Like I don't even remember her name at this point, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know who to look up and I don't need to.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, so talk about the work you do now. And and I will just full confession. I think you and I've traded messages with you. I love when you put the holy crap quotes of the week. Maybe
Yes.
talk about those. I've sent you. I've screenshot so many of those.
They're
And I think
so good.
almost like my goal is to be able to have a quote out there that then Ashlyn will say.
Oh,
I know. And I realize I don't really put a lot of quotes out there, but that is an ambition.
I don't either.
Okay.
I'm like, I never even quote myself. Why don't I quote myself?
Okay, that will be my goal moving forward to do that. But then if someone follows you, it's a blast to see you've got the fitness stuff. You're in a new relationship. I told my daughter and wife about you Sunday because my daughter just out of nowhere said, "I really liked rollerblading. I should skate." I mean, I want to hear this for my daughter alone. How long have you skated? How often do you skate? What is that like for you? You're in roller rinks. You're all around the place.
Yeah. We're traveling to a skate party this weekend. So
really? Talk about that. What is
it's just funny. It's kind of this culture and we haven't been a huge part of the culture, but we're starting to kind of dive into it now. But I started roller skating through figuring out how to take care of myself after the betrayal.
Okay, and that's beautiful to hear. I assumed as a kid.
I should share that more.
Yeah, talk about that. Okay.
So my therapist said, you need to start taking care of yourself and have like things to do because you're spending all this energy. Like, what's he doing? And it's just not helping you. And so I couldn't think of what I wanted to do. I was a mom. I had all these labels, didn't know who I was. And she said, just the easiest thing to do is go back to something that you loved when you were little.
Wow.
And I thought, okay, I remember sticking on my headphones with my Walkman and putting on my roller skates, and I would skate in my cul-de-sac and I would sing and I didn't know what I was doing, but I was skating and having fun. And weekends I would go to the roller rink with my friends, and it was only probably 2 years of my childhood, but it felt like this big thing. So when I think my partner then got me these skates for Christmas. I think it was probably 9 years, 10 years ago. It was so exciting because I thought, okay, now I have skates. I can do this on my own. And I did here and there. So I would just go by myself and I didn't know how to skate and I didn't know, like no one was teaching me anything. So I really was it was like going on a walk, but I was just moving in a circle around a rink. And I would play music from my childhood and it was like double the endorphins.
What are the songs? I'm curious. This is my ADHD.
Oh my gosh.
What are your?
Do you know Eternal Flame by the Bangles?
Oh, the Bangles. Yeah. Okay. I didn't, that wasn't my first guess, but okay.
Oh yeah. Like
that's on couple
sappy,
skate. That's when you
cute.
might even hold
I was just like, yes, it's so dreamy. And so, yeah, it's just silly. But I stopped skating for quite a while because it didn't make me happy anymore. It was reminding me of like my marriage and how hard it was and how lonely I felt. And so I started skating again, 2 years ago.
Wow.
And it happened to be that my partner, who I've met, he came with me, and he's annoyingly good at everything he does.
Because when I see how good he skates, I just
He's
thought,
so
what is
good.
it? Was he this professional skater and you met him at the skating rink and he teaches lessons? I had a whole
No,
narrative.
I
No?
know people ask us all the time, like, "Did he introduce you to skating?" And I'm like, "No, I introduced him."
Oh, he's way too good then. That makes me think,
He's
wait, so anybody? No, anyone can.
Yeah, no, he is so good, and he loves it, and for him, it's absolute therapy. Like, he grew up dancing and singing and moving his body, and so roller skating kind of combines all of that.
Wow.
Like, it's just a really fun way to express yourself.
Yeah.
And so, yes, he's fantastic. And so roller skating for me has been really fun. We don't really have friends who do it with us,
Okay.
which has been kind of a bummer. I wish I had, like, we've made friends doing it, obviously, but I think once you start learning things, people are like, "Meh," like if you don't go all the time. And we go at least once a week. So not every day, but
Yeah.
we have kind of a standing date night to the
I
roller
love it.
rink.
Hey, that's probably a good segue. And by the way, I'm suppressing a lot of jokes about just being out there on the rink and are there the little kids and do you ever run
Oh,
over
yeah.
them? And okay.
They run over me.
Do they? Okay.
It is terrifying to go when they have the scooters out because the scooter kids just like,
Oh, I
you
didn't know
know,
there were scooters on the rolling
not all
rinks.
rinks, but
Okay.
yeah, our rink here in Orem
Okay.
allows scooters. And
Okay.
so they're the cutest little kids. But yeah, if I get taken out by a scooter, I hurt for like a month because I'm 44.
Yeah. But maybe a good segue to I saw that you post sometimes some or answer questions about being in a new relationship
Uh-huh.
and then is there an age difference? Is that what I'm
Yes.
okay, so go anywhere you want.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, we could go all over the place. First of all, a new relationship after
Yeah.
21 years is kind of a lot.
Mm.
I definitely came into the relationship like, okay, so I act like a wife because that's all I know
Oh,
how to do.
okay.
And he's like, whoa, don't have he's never been married.
Okay.
And so he would be like, why are we doing, I think it was confusing for him at the first. He and I met through my therapist. She had gone to him for massage for years. She'd
Okay.
actually told me about him while I was married. Like, you guys actually could do retreats together. I think you'd work well together. And she never saw us as like romantic.
Yeah.
She really just thought we could heal people together.
Wow.
And I never met him. I was like, nah, I'm not interested in working with a man, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. And I met him after, and it was immediate. Like, we just could talk to each other really well and go deep really
Mm.
fast. Like, our first hike, it was just like, we're just there. And we both were like, okay, I like the way this person thinks. And
Yeah.
we both agree we were really safe for each other because I am 13 years older than him.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was not interested in dating anyone young. And,
I think that
for
right there, not that you never see that coming, but there's a couple that I remember working with and they had about a 10 or 11 year age difference. So they just went into it just assuming that there is no chance.
Yeah.
And so it was easier for them to be open and vulnerable. And I've thought about that
Yes.
so often
It's so funny.
Yeah.
But we both were just like, well, we're having fun together and it's helping us heal. Like, we help each other see things in each other that other people aren't helping us do.
Mhm.
And so my therapist was like, just have fun. You
Yeah.
guys have fun together, just heal together. And so we just took it like that for 4 months. Like, this is just fun. And, we're not. And then I remember being like, but I have feelings. Like,
I was gonna say, who caught
why?
feelings first?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think both of us. It was,
Okay.
I remember both of us saying, like, I have feelings that I don't want to, like, we wouldn't say, but we were like, ew, why am I feeling these feelings so fast?
Yeah.
And so after 4 months, I was like, hey, if we want to keep doing this, I would like to be in a relationship and let's just do it. So that's what we ended up doing. And it's been messy and so healing and beautiful in so many ways for both of us.
Did that prep work of being open and vulnerable and having others have different opinions, was that a
Oh
good
yeah. I
practice?
told all my friends, like, I would never be able to marry this man. He's
Okay.
so young.
Yeah.
He's so good looking. He's a massage therapist and owns a spa. And so I was like, he touches women all
Right.
day.
Okay.
Like, there is no way I would marry this man. And here I am today, and I'm sending my friends and my family to him
Yeah.
and saying, "Here, go be touched by my guy," because it's not what I thought it was, in my mind, it didn't seem fair that he was massaging people, but it really is a job just like everything else,
Yeah.
and,
I love the
um
way you even put that in my mind, the stories that our brains tell us that we
Mhm.
fuse to that then keep us away from that uncomfortable feeling
Yeah.
and that I know it's so cliched these days, but that embracing discomfort or leaning into discomfort, has that been a big
Oh,
part of your
yeah.
growth?
Well, even when I got massage from him, I was like, "I don't know how I feel about this." 1, I've never even had a man massage me, and
Mm.
I was just vomiting verbal processing on him, and he was like, "Okay, well, are you safe?" Like, I don't know what's going on here.
That's a you issue, right?
Yes, it was definitely a me issue, and it's common,
Mm.
especially here in Utah where I live. It's like, if I go to a man, it must mean I'm doing something, immoral or wrong,
Yeah.
and we have sexualized it at that point, and so I think it's a beautiful thing that my friends and his friends, his guy friends will go to him. It's beautiful
It's
because
funny that
he's like, "All I am is just connecting them back to themselves."
wow. I would say that it's really funny that I didn't realize he was a massage therapist, and I've been trying to, I preach self-care, raise your emotional
Mhm.
baseline, and had an injury recently, and I was thinking I need to get a massage, and then I never took the time to, and I realized,
Mhm.
okay, I have to prioritize, and then I immediately went to that place of, okay, but I can't go see a woman masseuse because, and it's funny just even to think I have this awareness, but then still just feel this internal
Yeah,
programming almost, or this, and I don't even know where that one comes from, but
yeah,
it's sure there.
yeah, and it's common.
Yeah.
It's a very common thing, and so, yeah, it is for me, it was very much going against that fear, and he works at my retreats,
Okay.
and I get to see these women who have never experienced a man touch them without it meaning something,
Okay.
and some of them just bawl during it because they're like, "This is beautiful, like, why am I not having this in my actual relationship where
Wow.
we can just, like, love each other or help us connect back into our bodies?" And so, I've had girls who cry after the massages like, "I had no idea that there were safe men out there."
Oh, that's beautiful to
And
hear.
I'm just like, "Oh, and that's my
Yeah.
partner."
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Ashlyn, I had all these questions, and we didn't get to any of them, and we're running out of time. And are you okay to come on for another?
Absolutely.
Okay, this is so nice. There's a selfish part of me that, well, of course, I want people to know where they can find you and the work that you do. But the story that you tell, and the one about the buffalo.
Yeah.
It's funny because when I hear you say it, I always write a note or something. I want to go look it up. I want to include it in a podcast and I always thought I'll give Ashlyn credit, but here we are. So can you tell
It's not
that?
even my story either.
What
It's
I
just
realize, but
y
I associate that with you.
yes, a
Yeah.
lot of people
Tell me
do
about that.
because for me, the story of the buffalo is a pivotal point for me in my
Okay.
story. It was a story told to me by my therapist, and it is when there is a storm in nature, when a cow sees it, they turn and run away from the storm. And because they're slow, they're in the storm much longer,
Mm,
they're running away, but they're stuck in that storm, and so it's uncomfortable, they're tired and worn out, and eventually get through it. Whereas a buffalo sees a storm and they turn and face it. Some people say they charge it. I'm not I'm a turn and face it
okay.
because this is life. When a storm is there, do we run away or do we turn and face it? A buffalo faces it, and because they can move faster than they're facing the storm, they actually get through the storm faster. They still are tired, they're still worn out, but they're not in it as long. And so it's that choice of, do I want to be a buffalo
Hmm.
or do I want to be the cow? Do I want to there's been a million times in my life where I've been the cow. Like, I just don't want to deal with this. I'm going to put my head in the sand and like pretend that this isn't happening.
Yeah.
Mask up whatever I need to do. Or the buffaloes moment, and like, I'm really good at facing my storms. I'm really good at just like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, and I'll figure it out. And I
Yeah.
just go for it. And that has changed my life in so many ways.
Yeah. I love what
Just
you're
in,
saying.
like, all aspects of your life, if you think about it, like parenting, work,
Yeah.
your relation it's everything.
So the story, and I like it because the storm is still there,
Yep.
and I think so many people want to try to avoid all storms, and so that they're going
Yeah.
to avoid life in essence. but they're there. I love that. And it's funny. I remember one of the times I heard you say it, and I won't lie, I immediately Googled it, and I thought it has to be wives' tale. I'm like, oh no, it's very real.
It's a
That is
thing.
what buffalo do. Yeah,
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 so I have a buffalo ring I made. I had little buffalo tattoos I would wear that were temporary. And so having those reminders for myself were really important. So plenty of people have gotten like real tattoos or something, but if you like a story like that, find something that is wearable.
yeah. I like
That's a
that.
good reminder because it's like I can sit and, oh yeah, I gotta
Yeah.
be strong. Gotta
So,
do
Ashlyn,
this.
where do people find you? Are you doing retreats currently? Are you working
Yeah.
with people? Talk about that.
Yes, so my retreats I have both an online 5-week one, and then I have a 4-day one in person, 2 of those. They are not betrayal or divorce focused.
Okay.
My crowd comes, and they're often those things, but we don't focus on pain. We really are moving into power and
Okay.
having play and having rest and connecting with like-minded people. So it's a really safe and fun place to be. And then I do coaching in groups for betrayal and divorce, and it's all online. So you can find me at This Is Ashlyn, ASHLYNN.com, or I'm on Instagram, Facebook, This Is Ashlyn.
Okay, Ashlyn,
And
I can't wait to
podcast,
talk
I
again.
guess. I have a
Right?
podcast too.
Yes, and okay, and the last thing, this is what's really funny too. This is maybe the way I roll. If I look at the notes, when I reached out to you about bringing you on, okay, I'm about to lock up my iPad because I'm so giddy with trying to open it. Okay, here we go. I had asked you this, so this is the best. Tell me if you remember though, because I had sent a question. I said, okay, this is so selfish of me, but I would love to have you come on one of my podcasts and answer this question. And then I said, even if it's after you record it or put it out there, I would love to talk to you about this. And I don't remember what the question was. You would
Oh,
put
no.
something in here. Do you remember? Isn't that funny? That was the whole. I was like, oh my gosh, that
I
is the question.
I
Yeah.
think we answered it. It was kind of like, well, what do you know now that you're, like, in this new
Oh,
place?
okay.
How would you see betrayal differently maybe? Something
Okay.
like that.
Let's
And
say that
yeah,
that's
there
what it
is
was.
things I would do different.
Okay. So,
We can
part
talk about
two
that.
someday, right? So many things, but this was everything I'd hoped it would be and more. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
And
thank you for having
yeah,
me.
and then I'll reach back out and we'll get you on another time. Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashlyn. For real, it was a joy. Okay, talk
I
to you later.
enjoyed it too.